There's this myth, this story that some of my family members keep telling each other, keep telling themselves, that because both sets of my grandparents grew up during the Great Depression and its aftermath, they came away from that experience with an attitude of waste not, want not. That everything could be repurposed so you didn't throw anything away because you might have another use for it later. As a result, both sets of grandparents ended up leaving behind massive amounts of clutter and piles of odds and ends that would truly never be of any use to anybody ever again. It's a great story. It makes perfect sense. But the fact is, you don't have to have grown up in the Great Depression to end up with piles and piles of stuff cluttering your house, your garage, your office, your car. And there's a difference between hoarders, those who accumulate things because they're compelled to never throw those things away, and collectors, those who accumulate things because they enjoy amassing and categorizing and celebrating those things. And the third category, slackers, those who accumulate things because they haven't got around to sorting out which things to file, keep, donate, or toss. But the reasons don't change the results. Many of us have too much stuff, too many things that are of no use to us. And just like the extra fat cells that I carry around in my body, those things have weight, and that weight has a cost. Welcome to the INRIS Files, presenting thoughts on culture, history, and the human condition from a very specific Generation X point of view. Just as all who wander are not lost, so too all who have too much stuff are not necessarily hoarders. And quite frankly, having collectors and accumulators, whatever you want to call them, can be a benefit to society as a whole. Antique collectors preserve our memories of how things used to be built. Art collectors preserve and cultivate creative beauty. Book collectors actively engage in the ongoing literary conversations of our culture. Just as every single generation has its individuals who tend toward minimalism, every sample of population over time also has its collectors and, unfortunately, even hoarders. I mention all that because I think there's a tendency for many to embrace and advocate for live the way I'm living and you will be happy, which ignores the fact that we all have different predispositions, and that's actually a good thing. I have a point to make here, but it's not that if you have a lot of stuff, you're necessarily worse off than those who don't. Minimalists are not necessarily happier than accumulators. Even so, unless you actually are a happy minimalist who happily maintains that lifestyle, you have accumulated stuff here and there. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, there's lots of advantages to it, but there's also a cost. At the time that I record this, American society, especially the middle class, has gotten into the habit of accumulating stuff beyond the point where we have room for it all. Entire nationwide businesses have grown up around an industry of self-storage where you can pay a monthly fee to store the stuff that no longer fits in your house in a locked space outside your house. This is stuff that people keep for any number of reasons. Family heirlooms that are not currently practical but still have great sentimental value, old dishes and desks, held with the intention of eventually giving to the children when they grow up and move out of the house. Things like books or art that the owners desperately want to get out and put back on display, but they've had to downsize their living space for the time being, and so they're holding on to these things in a separate location until they can once again move into a place with more room. But here's a question. After you've had that stuff in storage for so long, haven't you actually paid just as much in storage fees to replace all that stuff at a later date? And even for households that don't pay extra to keep things at a self-storage facility, maintaining a large amount of things in your home still has cost. There's the mental cost of keeping track of where everything is in your mind map. There's the extra time it takes to neaten up for company when you want to host friends or family, or you want to rearrange things to make room for the Christmas tree or Festivus pole or whatever your holiday celebrations might include. And when you do move, there's not only the extra expense in time and money to pack and secure all that stuff, there's quite literally the extra cost of paying to move all that stuff. And when you get to your destination, there's the time needed to unpack all that stuff. American society has always tended to be somewhat mobile, with most people moving several times in their adult lives. How much extra have you paid to move all those books that you're not reading to the point where you could have afforded to just replace them all by now? Or even more likely, pay to replace the ones you would refer to again and not bother with the others. I mean, really, how many books in your library are you going to be opening up again? 50%? 10%? 3%? None. And of course, there's buying the stuff in the first place. You buy and amass more books than you have time to read when you could check them out of the library as you are ready to read them for free. Books that you can then return to the library and not have to worry about storing or keeping track of. You buy that super nice set of flatware for those special occasions when you host a dinner party and then you never host a dinner party. You have shelves worth of board games and then never play more than one or two of them in any given year. Or set of years. Or is that just me? Side note, I'm a writer who occasionally makes royalties on the stories I sell, so please don't stop buying books on account of my ramblings here. Thanks. Believe me, as someone who has amassed quite a bit of books and music and videos in physical form, plus all kinds of other collectibles, I completely get that there are very valid reasons to hold on to stuff, even if you don't know when or if you're going to get back to them. But they do have a cost. Once you've bought them and used them and put them away, they still have a cost just sitting there. They also have an opportunity cost. Somebody else could be using them while they're just sitting in storage in your place. And there's the room that they take up in your mind and your life, which could be used for other things, or even nothing. And that has its own value and cost as well. There's no call to action here. That's just some food for thought from the INRIS files. What do you think? Are you holding on to too much? Do you wish you hadn't let go of certain things in the past? Share your thoughts in the comments section below, and please be kind when you engage in the conversation. Be sure to click like if you want to see more videos like this, and subscribe if you'd like to be alerted about them when I post. Thank you for checking out the INRIS files, and we'll see you again next time.